From a humble seminary student to the absolute ruler of a vast empire, the story of Joseph Stalin is a chilling tale of power, paranoia, and iron-fisted control. How did one man, born Yosef Jugashvili in a small Georgian town, rise to command the Soviet Union and leave an indelible bloody mark on the 20th century? Let's uncover the shadows of the man they called the Man of Steel. Born in 1878, young Yosef's path seemed destined for the priesthood. He was a bright student at the Tbilisi Spiritual Seminary. But beneath the surface, revolutionary ideas were brewing. He was drawn to the writings of Karl Marx and Vladimir Lenin, finding a new kind of scripture in their calls for class struggle. Expelled for his radical activities, he fully embraced the life of a revolutionary, adopting the name Stalin, meaning man of steel. He became a key Bolshevik operative, known for his ruthlessness and skill in organizing bank robberies and other illicit activities to fund the party. When the 1917 October Revolution erupted, Stalin was a key figure, but he was often overshadowed by more charismatic leaders like Leon Trotsky. Lenin, however, saw Stalin's value. He was a master of the political backroom, a tireless administrator. In 1922, Lenin appointed him to the seemingly mundane post of General Secretary of the Communist Party. This was the move that would change everything. While others debated grand theories, Stalin was quietly placing his loyalists in key positions across the country, building a power base that was loyal only to him. After Lenin's death in 1924, a fierce power struggle ensued. Lenin, in his final testament, had warned against Stalin, describing him as too rude and suggesting his removal. But Stalin, ever the cunning operator, managed to suppress this document. He skillfully played his rivals like Trotsky, Zinoviev, and Kamenev against each other. He portrayed himself as Lenin's most faithful disciple, the steady hand needed to guide the nation. One by one, he outmaneuvered and exiled his opponents, consolidating his grip on the party and the state. By the late 1920s, he was the undisputed leader of the Soviet Union. With absolute power came absolute transformation. Stalin launched his first five-year plan in 1928, a brutal and ambitious drive to rapidly industrialize the agrarian nation. The goal was to catch up with the West in a single decade. Factories and massive industrial complexes sprang up, but the human cost was staggering. This was paired with the policy of collectivization, forcing millions of peasants to give up their private land and join state-controlled collective farms. This policy was met with fierce resistance, especially in Ukraine. The result was catastrophic. The state seized grain, leading to a man-made famine known as the Holodomor in 1932. As his power grew, so did his paranoia. The 1930s saw the beginning of the Great Purge, or the Great Terror. It began with the assassination of Sergei Kirov, a popular party leader, in 1934, an event many historians believe Stalin himself orchestrated. This became the pretext for a terrifying wave of repression. No one was safe. Old Bolsheviks, military leaders, intellectuals, artists, and ordinary citizens were arrested by the secret police, the NKVD. They were accused of being enemies of the people, forced into false confessions through torture, and then executed or sent to the vast network of forced labor camps known as the Gulag. Millions were swept up in this meat grinder of suspicion. The terror created a society gripped by fear, where a careless word could lead to a neighbor's denunciation and a midnight knock on the door. Stalin had effectively eliminated any potential opposition, real or imagined, creating a cult of personality around himself. He was portrayed as an all-knowing godlike figure, the father of the nation, whose wisdom was absolute. When World War II, known in the Soviet Union as the Great Patriotic War, began, Stalin was initially caught off guard. Despite warnings, he had signed a non-aggression pact with Hitler in 1939 and was shocked when Germany invaded in June 1941. The initial phase was disastrous for the Red Army, which had been severely weakened by Stalin's purges of its officer corps. But Stalin rallied. In his famous radio address, he appealed not to communist ideology, but to Russian patriotism, calling the people brothers and sisters. The war on the Eastern Front was a brutal, titanic struggle. The battles of Stalingrad and Kursk became turning points, demonstrating the incredible resilience and sacrifice of the Soviet people. Under Stalin's command, the Red Army pushed the German forces all the way back to Berlin. The victory came at an astronomical cost. Over 27 million Soviet lives were lost. But it transformed the Soviet Union into a global superpower and cemented Stalin's status as a victorious war leader on the world stage. In the post-war years, Stalin's paranoia did not subside. He extended his iron grip over the newly liberated nations of Eastern Europe, creating the Eastern Bloc and ushering in the Cold War. At home, the cult of personality reached its zenith, and new waves of repression targeted returning soldiers and ethnic minorities. He was planning another major purge, beginning with the so-called Doctors' Plot, which targeted Jewish doctors, when he died suddenly in March 1953. Stalin's death was met with a strange mixture of genuine grief from those who knew no other leader and quiet, immense relief. The terror, for a moment, had stopped. His successor, Nikita Khrushchev, would later deliver a secret speech denouncing Stalin's crimes and his cult of personality, beginning a period of de-Stalinization. The legacy of Joseph Stalin is complex and deeply controversial. He transformed the Soviet Union from a backward nation into a nuclear-armed industrial giant that defeated Nazism. But this progress was built on a foundation of millions of corpses, victims of famine, purges, and the Gulag. He was a master political strategist who created a system of total control, fueled by terror. His story serves as a dark and powerful reminder of how a revolution's ideals can be twisted into a personal dictatorship, and how the pursuit of absolute power inevitably leads to absolute corruption and human suffering. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into history. If you found this video insightful, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next exploration into the figures who shaped our world. See you next time.